Hey guys, so today we are going to make sweet yogurt from Culture. So I had never done that before until recently, and once I started making my own yogurt at home, I realized how much better it is. So it's delicious, and now I'm hooked. And honestly, it can stay in the fridge for 30 days before you make your next Culture, and me and Mark eat it so fast now that it doesn't make it 30 days anymore. So to start out, we want to make sure we're using the right utensils and tools. Enamel pots are usually best, or stainless steel pots, because they can sterilize. Anytime you're cooking with cultures or bacteria, and I say cooking, but really when you're going to leave it to ferment or leave it in the long term, you want to make sure there's not extra bacteria that's there. So always sterilize your equipment before you use it, because it's not like you're going to heat it to temp and eat it right away. It's a culture that's going to grow, so you don't want to let anything else harbor. So sterilize your equipment. Dishwasher works great. I do use metal utensils for this. I have this strainer spoon and this cat that's going to help me apparently by vocalizations every once in a while. But this is the strainer spoon that I use. It's great for cheese making too if you do get into that, because it helps with the stirring and separating the curds and whey, but we're not going to use it that way for yogurt. Also, you're going to need a thermometer. It is really important. I'm one that uses the least amount of utensils possible, but it is important in this scenario. We've got to get our culture up to temp to be able to get it to the right temperature to be able to coagulate like we need, and then at the same time we've got to get it cool enough that we're not going to kill our culture when we add it to the milk. So very simple process. We're going to take our pot. We've got to add our half gallon of milk is what I usually make mine with, and then I started out with these sweet cultures. You can buy them from cheesemaking.com to get your culture started. Technically, you can buy a plain 4-ounce yogurt and go ahead and start and use that as your culture and your base. I have not done it, but others have had success with that and told me about it. So it's just really up to you how you want to get started, but make sure you're using a plain yogurt that doesn't have any fruit, sugar, or additives to it. But this is a starter culture. So we're going to take our pot and our milk and make sure that we get it up to temp. So we're going to slowly do that. We don't want to blast it all the way onto high heat and let it go, but we want to turn it up to about medium and then kind of go gradually from there. We want to get the temperature to 180. While we're doing that, we're going to stir in our, it's only optional, but I do use the Knox gelatin just to make it a little bit more stable. I don't like mine to be runny. You can strain it a couple of extra times, but this is actually a really easy process to get a thicker yogurt. And I like mine to be a little creamier, so completely, totally optional, but adding half a cup of dry milk to it whenever you stir it in. So those two ingredients, completely optional. You need the milk, you need the culture. If you want to add those two things, I prefer it in how I make it. You do not have to do it. So make sure that we're getting our milk up to temperature at the 180, stirring that as we go. You do continually use your thermometer to make sure your temperature, because as soon as it hits 180, you're going to take it off the heat. You're going to put it in a cool water bath, just simply in the sink with cool water. Make sure you're stirring it so that it goes down in temperature. You want to get it down to 118. Once it's down to 118, then we're going to take it off completely, because we want to hold it at that temperature. So we want to make sure it doesn't cool too much and just walk away from it. We're still going to pay attention to it. Then we're going to add our culture in. So I always save from each batch. I'm going to start with my culture today, but in general I would keep 4 tablespoons of the pre-made yogurt completely kept aside, and then we're going to stir that into to be our culture for our starter. Every time I make a batch of yogurt, first thing whenever it stops its incubation process, I'm going to make sure that I hold aside about 4 tablespoons of it so that it's ready to go for my next batch. You do want to make sure that you're storing it in jars or containers that are clean, also sterilized. I use jars for that. Always make sure you write your date on it and when it expires by, because you don't want to sit something in the fridge, push it to the back and go, is this okay or is this not? Just make sure you're keeping your dates. So I use a little masking tape and I write it on there on my yogurt. So I've got my label here in my fancy handwriting. So a little masking tape just keeps us good to go on that. Once you get it to the 118, you add your culture in, and then you need to incubate it or insulate it. So I have this little YogaTherm that I ordered off cheesemaking.com, but you don't have to do it that way. This is simply styrofoam insulation and a plastic bucket. Now, because these are made for it, it fits my sizes for a half gallon just perfectly, so that's great. But you don't have to. You can make it easier or decide that if you like to make it, then you're going to invest in something. It's about $40, I don't think. it was that much, but you can just put it in a cooler or something that's going to keep it at the temperature. So 118 for 5 hours. That helps it get good and ready and all incubated. And then you're just going to take it out and put it in the refrigerator. It's good to go after that. You don't have to do anything special. It is unsweetened. I actually think that it's really delicious unsweetened. So then I end up serving in my bowl. I've got my plain yogurt here. You can throw different things on there if you want to. I've got some fresh blueberries here that I'm going to throw on mine today, and I'm kind of hooked on curd. So lime curd has been my favorite. This is some raspberry curd that I bought online, but a little bit of curd, a little bit of fruit. I don't want sugar in there, so it keeps it just a little bit less sugar going, because I've already got some in the jams that I use. I'm actually kind of hooked on buying jams and things at stores and markets, and when I find a different fruit to use, then I get really excited about that. So this is a great outlet for me to be able to use this in. So hope you have fun making the yogurt. I hope you enjoy it because it's yummy and delicious, and we'll find other things to use some jams in, like apple skivers.